Regis is probably the only person I know who'd want his picture on paper. I guess defacing a digital one just isn't the same.
There's nothing in here.
Dr. Lau, so good to see you again, my dear.
You should have made an appointment.
Dr. Vargas, I'd like to ask you a few questions, if I may.
Certainly, my dear. Anything I can do to help.
What would you describe your role here as, Dr. Vargas?
This is publicly available information, Dr. Lau.
Now, Galatea, it is a reasonable question. For the past 18 years, I've held the role of controller of centralized government. I ensure that Central, our city governance CI, is functioning within parameters.
What would you say your political function within the city is?
None at all. The elected council formulates city policy. It is merely Central's role to execute this and ensure the day-to-day well-being of the city.
And it is Dr. Vargas's role to maintain Central's operations. Surely you're already aware of this, Dr. Lau.
Just wanted to get it from the source.
Sometimes our desire to remain outside the political spectrum has led to rumors. We are not, however, the secret puppet masters behind the government of Newton.
I shouldn't count you as my boss, then.
Dr. Lau.
Heavens no, my dear. If anything, we are equals on an administrative footing. Central acts as director for both of our operations, though.
How long have you known Dr. Regis?
Since, 2067. He joined a research project of mine. He was a good man then, very principled.
And now?
I have no doubt goodness remains. Though since joining CEL, I fear that he expresses this solely through his work.
Do you know about his garden on Tier 42 of this building?
Ah, yes. I've been there myself a couple of times. Though I hope we can keep that between us, Dr. Lau.
What did you think of it?
It is certainly an interesting way of coping with grief. Though that it has lasted so long is perhaps cause for concern.
What can you tell me about this incident?
Currently not a great deal, hence why you have been tasked with this investigation. Dr. Baxter has been found murdered in his workplace, and Dr. Regis was caught entering and leaving the facility by their security infrastructure.
How about a background to the case? A history?
Baxter has been responsible for the murder of Viksha Regis.
Charles Regis's wife.
He was caught and convicted, and until recently had been serving a sentence for the crime.
I'm aware of this so far, yes.
He had recently been paroled with the Vickerman Corporation as his sponsor. I can only imagine Regis's feelings on the matter.
Violent, no doubt.
But I knew Charlie Regis, and I know what kind of man he was. Justice is his motivator, but with his background, out in the hot zones.
You worry that this might have been his idea of justice?
Precisely. That, my dear, is why I need you to investigate this case before Central jumps to any conclusions to the matter. Ah, yes, Vicky. She was a student of mine in the 50s in Buenos Aires. She spent several years working for the UN in hot zones around the world. When she had finished, she was the natural choice for the project I was just commencing.
He never really spoke about her.
They were very much in love. It pains me greatly to see a man so afflicted by a loss.
She was a engineer as well?
Yes and no. She specialized in organic computing, a field perhaps more closely aligned to your own.
Though Regis has an obvious motive, can you think of anyone else who might have a reason to do this?
I shall be honest. Dr. Baxter was not an easy man to work with. There were many who disliked him in his time, though none I knew could call him his enemy.
I'm afraid that's classified.
Galatea, how can we help if we block every question? It was a project that utilized the expertise of both Viksha and Charles. Essentially, we were studying organic interfacing and large-scale computing.
Large scale, as in city coordination intelligences, like Central?
On this matter, I can answer no further. As a scientist,
But what was your
This
Thank you.
anything. Dr. Lau, so good to see you again, my dear.
That's not the procedure. I'm glad I had my fear of heights turned off.
You should have made an appointment.
Dr. Vargas, I'd like to ask you a few questions, if I may.
Certainly, my dear. Anything I can do to help.
How long have you known Dr. Regis?
Since, 2067. He was a good...
And now?
I've known those since...
Do you know about his garden?
Ah, yes, though I...
What did you...
It is, though, that...
You mentioned Regis's wife, Viksha.
Ah, yes, Vicky. She was a student of mine in the 50s, in Buenos Aires. She spent several years working for the UN in hot zones around the world. When she had finished, she was the natural choice for the project I was just commencing.
He never really spoke about her.
They were very much in love. It pains me greatly to see a man so afflicted by a loss.
She was a engineer as well?
Yes and no. She specialized in organic computing, a field perhaps more closely aligned to your own.
You mentioned a project that Viksha was recruited for.
I'm afraid that's classified.
Galatea, how can we help if we block every question? It was a project that utilized the expertise of both Viksha and Charles. Essentially, we were studying organic interfacing and large-scale computing.
Large scale, as in city coordination intelligences, like Central?
On this matter, I can answer no further.
What was your opinion of Dr. Baxter?
As a scientist, 20 years ago, he was peerless in his field.
But as a human being?
He did not take refusal well. This apparently is what led to his breakdown.
And the murder that followed that.
Precisely. I have not spoken to him personally since the trial, however. I'm afraid I couldn't enlighten you about his recent state of mind.
It's a fantastic view from up here.
Isn't it? That's why I choose to work from up here.
The only part higher in Fulcrum Tower is Central's operating center.
You could probably see all the way to Mombasa on a clear day. I'm certainly aware of your role in the city, Dr. Vargas. But who is your lovely assistant?
Of course, you haven't been properly introduced. This is my daughter, Galatea. She fills the role of my administrative support.
I'm being groomed for succession, apparently.
Oh, don't put it like that. You make it sound so dynastic. That certainly is not what we wish to represent.
What was your field before going into politics?
I was a computer scientist and a lecturer at Buenos Aires. In the 60s, the government of Newton was looking for research administrators. It eventually transpired that this role in itself was a kind of test.
The city council was looking for suitable individuals to manage Newton's new CI.
Central?
Yes and no. It was what eventually became Central.
What would you...
This is...
And
surely just... Dr.
Central.
What can you tell me?
And
How about...
back he was...
I'm aware...
He had... I can only...
Violent.
But I just...
You were...
precise before.
Though Regis has an obvious motive, Can you think of anyone else who might have a reason to do this?
I shall be honest. Dr. Baxter was not an easy man to work with. There were many who disliked him in his time, though none I knew could call him his enemy.
Dr. Vargas, I really need to ask. In my office, why did you cut Central's feed?
That's classified, Dr. Lau.
I'm afraid I cannot give you a complete answer on that subject. But a number of factors regarding yesterday's network attack have raised concerns. Not least the timing. It may be that Central's administration has been compromised.
You believe it's linked to Baxter's murder?
What makes you say that?
You cut the camera when talking to me about it. You were concerned that whoever may have compromised Central would find out what we were discussing.
Ha! Well, I have no fear of the quality of Cell's investigative staff now.
I learned from the best. Dr. Vargas, have you heard of mind-jacking?
Excuse me?
I'm afraid I have not, Dr. Lau. What is it?
It's the case Regis and I were working on lately. A number of individuals had their brains flash-wiped by a destructive copying technique.
That sounds most appalling, Dr. Lau. Does it pertain to this case?
Not that I'm aware of, sir. It might give someone a reason to frame Regis, though. Especially if they thought that we were getting too close.
So, perhaps Regis is a victim of attempted character assassination. To use Baxter as a means of doing so would be drastic.
Why don't you believe that Dr. Regis is responsible for Baxter's death?
I cannot say for certain that he is not, Dr. Lau. I simply hold on to the hope that he is not.
Thank you, Dr. Vargas. You've been most helpful.
Anything I can do to help.
Wow, that's a lot of green. Excuse me.
Great, they finally sent someone. You here to get the body out?
Maybe. I'm Max Lau, cell case specialist.
No kidding. I'm the lab director, Dr. Zvidzai Chigwa. Make it quick, I'm busy.
What's your role here?
I'm the supervisor for the telepresence factoring labs. Most of it's automatic. I just make sure it's all running like it should.
Sounds like a big responsibility.
It's a lousy job most of the time. TP is where management sticks people they don't want in public-facing roles.
You're not happy with it?
For the last few years, my career has been one disaster after another. I'm just glad it's plateaued into some kind of stability.
Can you tell me what happened?
Baxter got killed.
In any more detail?
When we started this afternoon, a whole lot of samples had been tampered with. We tried to call Baxter to find out what the hell was going on in the specimen bank.
And he didn't answer.
He didn't. Turned out the door to the specimen bank was locked too.
You haven't seen the body?
No, not in person, if that's what you mean. We got the camera feed online, but it was obvious that Baxter wasn't going to be coming out.
When did you last see him?
Guess it could have been Wednesday?
So he could have been killed any time in the past 3 days?
I guess, but it wouldn't fit with everything else.
What's the purpose of this lab? Plant studies?
Yes and no. It's a TP lab, telepresence. There's a lot of research that's not exactly legal in some countries.
But in Newton, pretty much anything goes.
Exactly. If someone in the EU needs research done on something hazardous, infectious, or endangered, they send the orders here and we carry out the testing.
What sort of research?
Mostly we make new angiosperms from scratch. That's flowering plants to you.
Gee, thanks. Why would people want new flowers?
Sometimes it's a drug delivery method. The earliest commercial examples were fruit that grew packed with insulin. A lot of new wetware begins its life as engineered fruit too.
Must be awkward if they cross-pollinate in the wild.
And a legal headache. Part of our job is making sure the copy protection works.
Copy protection in plants? Ouch. Aside from yourself, who else works in this laboratory?
There's my intern, Martin Meester, operates the factoring line. If you meet him, it's easy to see why they put him in here. And until recently, there was Dr. Baxter.
Tell me about Mr. Meester.
He came over from Eurofed on a study program. He's young. I guess we're all like that in our youth.
Good colleague?
He's all right. He got on board with that annoying Maladist trend. He knows how to follow instructions, so I let him get on with it.
Is visa still active?
Dr. Lau, we do not employ undocumented illegals in this lab.
Just have to check. I'm sure you understand. Tell me about Dr. Baxter.
Oh, he was bad enough to work with in the 60s. As part of his parole, they stuck a governor in his head. Since then, it's like talking to a badly written synthetic.
You don't care for him a great deal.
That man killed Vicky. Frankly, he deserved what he got.
But you still work with him.
He worked for me. It was another part of his parole. Vickerman's management persuaded centralized government that his skills were going to waste in prison. The company wanted him supervised by someone who knew him. Hence, they dragged my sorry ass in.
What did you have him doing?
He organized the specimen bank. It's the kind of thing we could just leave him at for hours on end. Days, sometimes. Really, it could have just been done by the facility's AI, but I had to give him something.
Otherwise, you'd have to talk to him?
Exactly.
You've got a keen mind. What's your take on this?
Hey, I'm not the detective, young lady. You know what I think? I think Regis did what they ought to have done 20 years ago.
Why do you say that?
Seems logical. We've got him coming into the labs on security, then we got him coming out an hour later. When we get here, we've got Baxter's corpse contaminating the specimen bank.
Anything else?
Well, something strange. Since we got in, we keep finding samples that have been tampered with. Looks like he spent his hour here messing up the genomes of our specimens.
That quickly?
If anyone was good enough to do it that fast, it'd be Charlie.
You knew Regis as well.
Yeah, I was on a research team with him and his wife back in the 60s. Baxter, too.
You've apparently known him a long time. Does this seem like something Regis would do?
Oh, after what he did to Vicky, I'd have strangled Baxter too. I tell you, if he did do it, I wouldn't blame him one bit.
Do you think he did it, though?
I don't know. He was always kinda shady.
Tell me about it.
They made him do some real awful stuff out in the hot zones.
Such as?
Let's just say his escape led to a whole lot of people being jailed for war crimes.
You seem preoccupied.
That obvious, huh? We found a couple of specimens that Regis tampered with in his hour here. So I gotta run through the catalog and dig out the backups.
Sounds straightforward.
Not when there's 11,000 samples to take. Oh, I could punch Regis for this. Though, I want to shake his hand for Baxter so it kinda evens out.
What's been done to the samples?
He's used a customized viral vector to add huge amounts of junk DNA to their genomes. These are the last two I found, Medioflorens interensis and Linacia lawsonis.
May I have a look?
Do you think it'll help?
Just a hunch. Huh. Non-binary. Quaternary data string?
What do you mean?
My wetware systems are interpreting the genomes of these plants as sections of an audio file. He's used the DNA to store information.
You think so?
It's incomplete. The two samples only make up a third of the data, but M and L, my initials? This can't be a coincidence. He's left a message.
What does it say?
Not sure yet. I could probably construct the whole message if I can find where he's hidden the rest of it.
Safe to say it's in the other plants he's engineered. Here, take this. You can sample DNA from the plants around the lab. If you run out of sampling cartridges, you can reload it at this console.
Thanks. How long would it take to sample everything in the lab?
Only a couple of years. We have over 11,000 subjects. You're better off looking for specimens that would fill the gaps in the clue he left. Is that all?
For now.
Then if you'll...
Excuse me, Dr. Chigwa?
Make it quick, I'm busy.
So, you worked with Regis and his wife, as well as Baxter. Did you also work for Dr. Vargas?
That pompous ass? Yeah, I worked for him.
You don't care for him?
He was a competent researcher, but he lives for politics. Everything was always about making the world a better place.
And you don't think it should be better?
It's a nice idea, just not realistic. And what we ended up making, it was... Actually, never mind.
What happens in the specimen bank?
It's where the samples of plants and growth matrices are stored. There's a huge library of subjects to work with, natural and man-made.
And that's where Baxter worked?
Yeah, it's not exactly taxing. I wanted to see what he could do since they put a governor in him.
You left him to work alone in there?
I'll be honest, he was not a pleasant man to talk to.
I wonder why Regis hid a message inside the DNA of these plants.
DNA's been used as a data storage medium before. Rather than on-off binary, DNA would be quaternary bits. Adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine. If he just left a message on one of the systems, though, or even on paper...
Then someone could have destroyed or erased it. Short of burning down the entire lab, they'd have no way to be sure they destroyed a message hidden like this.
Especially since he's scrambled so many of the other samples as camouflage.
He needs to make sure it's found, and based on the layout, he wants me to find it. Have you found anything else with added genetic data?
As a matter of fact, I have. There was a batch of Orchidaceae isotria in the growth lab, and...
And?
I can't remember exactly which specimen the other was. I do remember that it had yellow flowers, spiny toxic leaves, and very, very small fruit.
Why didn't the facility's CI detect Baxter's vitals suddenly failing? It's a potentially hazardous environment in here.
We were wondering that as well. This afternoon we noticed the monitoring system in the sample lab was in recursion. All hell broke loose when the CI suddenly realized what had happened.
So either you've got a technical fault with the software or wetware interfacing.
Which is unlikely given how much they cost.
Or someone breached the security systems to cover Baxter's murder. That gives me more hope. Regis would have no idea how to do that. What sort of research were you conducting in the 60s?
You mean with Charlie and his wife? You might not believe it, but we were the people behind Central.
Central? The city governing AI Central?
The same. Newton was looking for a coordinator AI. Vargas put together a team including the new Mr. and Mrs. Regis.
Nuke me. Regis never mentioned anything about this.
It wasn't a happy memory for him. He left after the unpleasantness. We finished the project a few months later.
Huh. Might explain why he hates Central's guts.
So, how do I build more of the message?
You've got to use the sampling tool to get DNA from the plants around the lab. The sampler can take 3 readings before it needs to be reloaded. In some areas of the lab, the atmospheric controls will prevent the reading being taken.
Apparently he wants me to find certain samples. I've got to think about where I'm going to find them.
Darn right. We've got a whole lot of A right now. Is that all?
For now.
Then if you'll excuse me, I'll get back to work.
I'm going to need to find where he's hidden the rest of the message before I get any sense out of it. I'd better not. If I start taking every single specimen, I'll be here for days. I'd better not. If I start...
Warning. Security clearance not valid for access to Growth Lab. Vickerman Pharmaceuticals thanks you for your cooperation.
Better not. It might tell the lab director. I'd better not. If I start...
The clear star that is yesterday wants to set things right.
All right, I won't touch them.
Hi there.
I hear taxi drivers make the best coffee.
My name's Dr. Max Lau. I'm a cell case specialist.
When will Plumber show them a photograph?
You're not making any sense.
Utter nonsense loves to love.
Are you alright?
Wondrous all lies ahead. What with the future yet to come? Era of moral crisis, punishment of evil, you may suffer from moral law.
Okay. Can I get your name?
The clear star that is yesterday wants to set things right.
Okay. What's your role at this facility?
When do you offer a mechanical holiday?
Uh-huh. What happened here?
I can't not promise to avoid not doing that thing I don't do.
I see. You're not making any sense.
The necessary but perhaps impossible notion of the nation-state works towards the rhetoric of synesthesia.
Are you alright?
Is a person of the worst living as a survival pull the battle of long-term staters in their roots?
I give up.
Is a person of the worst living as a survival pull the battle of long...
Warning. Vickerman.
I can't figure out what any of these tools are for.
A physical photo? Regis is probably... Hey, there's Dr. Chigwa as well.
Wetware's not going to connect with that.
Era of moral crisis.
All right. I'd better not. If I start taking... Oh God, what a mess. It's some kind of slime. Maybe I should just sample that. Nothing unusual found on the body, Central. Estimation on time of death?
The climate control in the specimen lab is compromising your sensors. Ambient temperature is just above freezing.
I'm going to need to find where he's hidden the rest of the message before I get any sense out of it. It's some kind of slime. Maybe I should just sample that. I've taken a DNA sample from it. I've taken a DNA sample from it. Taken a DNA sample from it. I haven't examined the body properly yet. Wetware's not going... Update Central.
What is the situation, Dr. Lau?
Dr. Baxter is certainly dead. He's been decapitated, and not cleanly either.
His head has been removed.
More like destroyed. At a glance, this would be the most likely cause of death.
What is your estimation of the incident, Dr. Lau?
There's too much we can't say for sure. We don't know precisely when Baxter was murdered. We can't even be sure that this was the cause of death.
That is a fair assessment. A clearer picture will no doubt follow the autopsy.
Don't send in anyone yet. I still need to carry out a preliminary.
I understand. Continue your investigation of events surrounding the incident.
Understood. Lau out. I hope I can find something to get Regis off the hook. Looks like Regis didn't hide any data in that one. Looks like Regis didn't hide any data in that one. Looks like Regis didn't hide any data in that one.
It's the DNA sampler Dr. Chigwa gave me. I need to take samples from plants I think Regis hid the rest of his message in. It's the I need to
I'm going to need to find where... taken a DNA... Huh. It won't let me take a sample from this one. I guess it needs to have grown a bit first. I've taken a DNA sample from it. I've taken a DNA... What is this stuff? Better trans up some data on it. Wetware's not going to connect with that. The growth matrix won't start in that. It worked! Looks like Regis didn't hide any data in that one. Looks like Regis didn't... I'm going to need to find where he's hidden the rest of the message before I get any sense out of it. I've taken a DNA sample from it. I've taken a DNA sample from it. I've taken... Looks like Looks like Looks like
Excuse me, Dr. Chigwa?
Make it quick, I'm busy.
I tried talking to your intern. It wasn't helpful.
Oh, never mind that. He's got aphasia.
Isn't that treatable?
Oh, yes. He just gave it to himself. It's what the kids are into these days.
Crippling neurological disorders?
Yes and no. Maladism, they call it. They give themselves old diseases. It only lasts about a week each time.
And you let him do that?
He's not public-facing, and as long as it doesn't get in the way of his work. I figure we all did things the old folks thought were stupid back when we were kids.
I need to ask Meester about the tampered specimens. How do I cure his aphasia?
Well, you wouldn't really cure it. He doesn't actually have the disease. It's essentially wetware designed to occupy the Wernicke and Broca regions of the brain. This then produces the symptoms of the disease. That's what they're going for.
I can't wait a week for the wetware to break down.
Find a way to break it down early then. If we've got an emergency contamination, we use hydroxypyruvate isomerase. It's an enzyme that instructs the fabricators in wetware to disassemble themselves.
I can't get into the airlock.
The airlock and the growth lab are secure areas. We grow potentially hazardous organisms beyond those doors.
I'm trying to conduct an investigation here. Don't make me get a warrant from Central.
I'm sorry, Central would likely agree with us. We can't just give anyone access to the growth lab.
Not even a cell agent?
I'd need a pretty damn good reason.
Have you found anything else with added genetic data?
As a matter of fact, there was a batch of Orchidaceae isotria in the growth...
And?
I do remember spine and very... Is that all?
For now.
Then if you...
I've taken a DNA... I've taken it. I've taken it. Looks like Looks like better not.
Hi there.
12-year-old question. John Gol anyone? I said John Gol.
I give up.
Utter nonsense loves to laugh. The barber envies your good fortune.
Sorry, just testing a theory.
I'm going to need to find where he... I've taken a I've taken it. I've taken a looks like looks like I can't figure.
Utter nonsense loves to love.
All right, I won't touch them. As much as I love shocking things, I don't think it'll help. I've taken a DNA sample from it. I've taken a DNA. I've taken it. He looks unconventional. Kids these days. Oh God, I sound like Regis. It's only compatible with the sampler tool. I'm going to need to... Looks like Looks like Better not. It might tell the lab director. I'd better not. If I start taking every single... I've taken a DNA... Excuse me.
Make it quick.
Have you found...
As a matter, there was a batch of Orchidaceae isotria in the growth lab, and... I can't remember exactly which specimen the other was. I do remember that it had yellow flowers, spiny toxic leaves, and very, very small fruit.
I need to ask Neester about the tampered specimens. How do I cure his aphasia?
Well, you wouldn't really. It's essentially wetware designed to occupy the Wernicke and Broca regions of the brain. This then produces the symptoms of the disease.
I can't wait a week.
Find a way to break it down early then. If we've got an emergency contamination, we use hydroxypyruvate isomerase. It's an enzyme that instructs the fabricators in wetware to Is that all?
For now.
Then if you...
I never thought gengineering would be so industrial. It's like a factory line. It looks like it's controlling... It's a drone. That must be what they use to... I've taken a deal. I've taken... Update Central.
What is your ask?
There's too much we can't say. We don't know precise. We can't even be sure. Don't send... growth matrix won't start. The growth matrix won't. As much as I love shock... Looks like Regis... Looks like... Looks like... I've taken a... I've taken a... I've taken it. I didn't realize that Gengineering was done with so much tape and wrenches. Looks like... Looks like... Looks like... He looks... Oh...
The clear star that is yes...
All right. Wetware's... I didn't realize... I can't... I've taken a DNA. I've taken a It doesn't have... I'm going to need... I'm going to need... Looks like... Looks like...
Dr. Lau, so good to see you again, my dear.
It doesn't have...
Dr. Vargas, I'd like to ask you a few questions, if I may.
Certainly, my dear. Anything I can do to help.
I examined Dr. Baxter's body at the laboratory.
What did you find?
He's been decapitated. His head smashed in.
My goodness.
I've taken initial readings, but they're proving inconclusive, even time of death. The lab's environment is throwing the chromatographs. Once he's been moved to cell for autopsy, we should get a clearer picture of what happened. It appears that while he was at the lab, Regis took the time to alter some of the specimens there.
Really? That is most peculiar.
Even more so, he appears to have hidden a quaternary data string in the genomes of these subjects.
What does the data contain?
An audio-visual message, but it's still fragmented. I believe that Regis was trying to leave a message directed at myself, regarding what happened.
This is a remarkable find, Dr. Lau. Please, continue your work. This may clear up what really happened in that laboratory.
While I was speaking to Dr. Chigwa, she told me about Central. Apparently both Charlie and Viksha Regis were involved in its creation.
Dr. Lau, that's classified.
I believe we can trust her, Galatea. Indeed, I brought Viksha onto the project at its inception. She recommended Charlie. They were not married at this stage.
This is unbelievable. He doesn't exactly have a high regard for Central.
I suppose I can sympathize. It is an unhappy association for him. Yet he will not allow himself the glorious reputation and history he deserves as one of those who created Central, an AI like none before.
Thank you, Dr. Vargas. You've been most helpful.
Anything I can do to help.
The growth matrix won't start in that. There's nothing.
Got to wait till the AI lab have had their turn analyzing her. Then she's all mine.
Nah, I've already got it set up just right.
got to wait.
The growth matrix. Nah. Better not pull the tape off the camera. It would... Better not. The growth matrix.
Hi there.
Is a person of the...
Can I get your name?
Nihilism asked to a question?
Okay. I give up.
Those fish...
The growth matrix won't start in that. The growth matrix. The growth ma... The growth matrix. The growth matrix. The growth matrix. It's only compatible with the sample. The growth matrix.
Excuse me, Dr. Chigwa?
Make it quick, I'm busy.
So, how do I build more of the message?
You've got to use the sampling tool to get DNA from the plants around the lab. The sampler can take 3 readings before it needs to be reloaded. In some areas of the lab, the atmospheric controls will prevent the reading being taken.
Apparently, he wants me to find certain samples. I've got to think about where I'm going to find them.
Darn right. You've got a whole lot of A right now. The airlock and the growth lab are secure areas. We grow potentially hazardous organisms beyond those doors.
I'm trying to conduct an investigation here. Don't make me get a warrant from Central.
I'm sorry. We can't just...
Not even...
I
need to ask Neester about the tampered specimens. How do I cure his aphasia?
Well, you wouldn't really. It's essentially wetware designed to occupy the Wernicke and Broca regions of the... This then produces the symptoms of the disease. That's what...
I can't wait to...
Find a way to break it. If we've got an emergency contamination, we use hydroxypyruvate. It's an enzyme that instructs the... Is that all?
For now.
Then if you'll...
Dr. Lau, please continue your involvement. Please find data.
As much as I love I didn't realize...
Warning. Vickerman Pharmacy. Warning. Vickerman
As much as I love... The growth matrix...